All right, we are in a new chapter. We're going to talk about triangles in this chapter. So some of these things on this note sheet you might recall from previous years of learning. If you have any questions, make sure you email me if you're unclear. So today we're going to talk about angles and triangles and finding measurements and things like classifying. Things that we've already learned will still be applied in this lesson. So when you want to classify triangles by angles, there are three kinds we'll talk about. Acute triangles. All angle measures must be less than 90 degrees. Remember, in a triangle, we learned that the total degrees is 180. So don't forget that. So in this acute one, all of them are less than 90. In an obtuse triangle, one angle must be greater than 90. So when you look at this picture, you can tell visually that that one's greater than 90. In a right triangle, one angle measure has to equal 90 degrees. So we have a 90 degree angle here. One thing I want you to remember that it's going to come back for you to be using in a right triangle is don't forget, in a right triangle, you can always use a squared plus b squared is c squared, and that is used to find side measures. And do any of you remember what that's called? This is called Pythagorean's theorem. Remember, C would be the hypotenuse and A and B are the legs, and you're using that to find side measures. So of these three, let's talk about a right triangle, and something we talked about in the last chapter about 90 degrees. This right angle means that you have perpendicular lines. So recall when you're talking about a right triangle, you know that you have to have two slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Oops, there we go. Wah, sorry. Push that button. Okay, opposite reciprocals. I'm not going to push that again. But this line here and this line here down here, they would have to have opposite reciprocal slopes if you had ordered pairs. So if you had this point and this point, you could find this line slope. And you have that point and that line, you can find that slope. And if you have opposite reciprocals, you know you have a right triangle. But in an obtuse, the slopes would all be different. Of the lines. And the same thing goes for acute triangles. So when you have a right triangle, you know a little bit more information. We learned about Pythagorean's theorem to find the distance of the sides. We know that perpendicular line slopes have to be opposite reciprocals. Oh, I'm having some problems here. Okay. Equal angular triangle. Equal means equal. Angular, angles. So this is all angles are congruent. So what would all the angle degree measures be in equal angular? They would be 60 degrees. Okay? Classifying triangles by sides. Okay. First one, scalene. All sides unequal in measure. No two sides are congruent. So if we wanted to mark this off, we would say that one was a 1 dash, this is 2 dashes, this is 3 dashes, because they're not congruent.